Since everybody seems to be ready, I would like to call this meeting of the Ascension Parish Council Finance Committee to order. I would like to introduce Eagle Scout candidates Chris Goodekunst and Ben Allen, and they are with Troop 769, and they're working on their Eagle Scout honor, and we're very proud to have them here tonight. So Councilmember Cheryl Fontenot will lead us in an invocation, after which we invite Eagle candidates Goodekunst and Allen to lead us in an invocation, in a Pledge of Allegiance. So please, would you all rise?
Father, we do bless your name tonight and give you honor and glory. Father, as we go about the business of the parish, dealing with the finances of the parish tonight, we ask that you, as always, give us the wisdom and the understanding of what needs to be done. We ask you to provide us the resources to get the things done. Tonight, we specifically thank you for the young men that are here tonight, Father God, who are coming to us tonight to represent their troop, because they are trying to be leaders in this country. We ask you to bless them tonight. We ask you to encourage them to go forth in this life, to be good citizens, and to provide us with protection in the future, and to provide us with good leaders. We thank you, as always, that we have troops that are serving us abroad. We ask that you bring them home safely and end the war quickly, Lord. We ask these things, Father, as always, in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Now we'd like to call forth Eagle Scout candidates Chris Goodekunst and Ben Allen of Troop 769, and please join them in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, could you pause a moment? We'd like to take a few photographs with you. If you want to come forth, please. This is an honor for us, gentlemen, to have you here tonight. They are both working on their Eagle Scout, and that is an honor that's going to stay with you for the rest of your lives. And always you will say, I am an Eagle Scout, never I was an Eagle Scout. And we're very, very pleased to have you here. We wish you the very best of luck and congratulations on your accomplishments. All right, we'll call the roll, and Mr. Valentine is not with us, and the parish president is out this evening, but everybody else is here. There are no chair's additions, item number 3. So item number 4, the public comment period. As always, we welcome the public to be here with us, and we invite you to comment on any of the items that we have on the agenda. And if our secretary, Ms. Suzanne Patterson, has sign-up cards, so if you will, please approach Ms. Suzanne. If you have any agenda item that you would like to comment on, please sign up then. She'll pass the cards up here, and we will take those items as they occur on the agenda. Item number 5, does anybody have any new business that is not on the agenda that we need to discuss tonight? Does anybody have any old business that is not on the agenda that needs to be discussed tonight? Good. It's Holy Thursday. I'm sure some people want to go to church tonight. Item number 7, the Lamar Dixon Expo Center update. And we have Mr. Eddie Crawford with the Lamar Dixon Expo Center.
Good evening, everyone. You should have before you our February highlights for that month. If you'll look to the right-hand column, you'll see some of the negative variances. Quite simply, we didn't get the number of events that we were looking for in February. Still a good month for us. What ended up making us have the positive variance of $15,477 was we operated very efficiently. We kept our indirect expenses down, maintenance items, the actual cost of having those events out there, we kept down under our budget number, which the variance ended up being $37,132. So again, February was a good month for us. The Louisiana Livestock Show, LSU Livestock Show was out there. That was part of the 10-day show that helped us achieve our numbers. We're also still getting a lot, I should say about 60 RV folks are staying with us now on a monthly basis. So that's, we were really looking forward to getting some transient traffic out there, folks staying overnight, passing back and forth across the state. But now we're getting folks that are coming out and actually spending the months with us at a time. A lot of those folks are working in New Orleans or contractors. We're now starting to see some of the folks that are working at the plants in our area are coming to stay with us. These are out-of-town folks from Oklahoma and Arkansas coming now to spend time with us. I think a lot of it has to do with it's just a better environment. They're bringing their families with them than just staying in the hotel room. So those are some of the highlights for February that helped us along with that. The March numbers will look very good as well. I had the Louisiana Sportsman Show out there for 4 days. Great event for us. We just, as you know, they came up from the Louisiana Superdome. We signed them for a 3-year deal. They had 12,500 paid attendants for that event. Everything went very well. He's very pleased. There's also a possible 3-year extension after that, the first 3 years. So we're looking forward to a long relationship with Louisiana Sportsman Show. Are there any questions about February?
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Crawford? Mr. Savoy.
Yeah, Mr. Eddie, on the comments and the direct event income, number 3, you got meetings. What you say actual is you've got in parentheses 55. Explain that to me. As far as what exactly does this represent?
There was a negative out there. We allowed the chamber to come, and we allowed a Boy Scout meeting to come out there. We put it in our books as a negative rental.
What does the number 55 represent?
55. That's a dollar amount.
Oh, okay.
These are organizations that are allowed to meet there for no charge.
Right.
So this is just a bookkeeping.
What we're doing right now with the Boy Scouts, for instance, is if they use a part of the property, we ask that they come out and help us pick up trash. It's community service back and forth. We show it on the SMG books just simply as a room being used.
Okay.
Eddie, thank you very much for being here.
Okay.
Encouraging numbers once again. Item number 8 then is the 2006 budget amendments. I'll call forth our CFO and Treasurer, Gwen LeBlanc. And just a note that ordinarily we amend the budget in the middle of the year, but we have some extraordinary items here that I've discussed with our finance department, and so we felt it was prudent to go ahead and do it now and take care of it because some of the items are pretty large. So, Ms. Gwen, thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, members of the council. Like Mr. McConnell just said, the purpose of amending our 2006 budget at this time is primarily due to Fire District Number 3. As you recall, they sold bonds last year, and the bonds were delivered in late 05, so the revenue was in the books on 05, but the expenditures were not. So at this time, it's necessary that we do this budget amendment. It's a significant amount of money so that we can expense the funds that the board has since decided that they on their budget for 06. The effects of this amendment, like I said, primarily Fire District Number 3, but we also included any other budget amendments that we knew by vote of the council or vote of the Drainage Board to date. The effects of this budget amendment is adding to our expenditures $3,404,100, and actually what our budget, that will present a budget to us. You will recall after our first budget amendment, the total budget was $65,071,580. With this amendment before you tonight, it will become $68,475,680. So after we go over the budget amendment, the purpose of this would be for the Finance Committee to recommend to the full council at their April 20th meeting an introduction of an ordinance amending the 2006 budget. Each of you have before you the ordinance itself, and we'll go over it real quick. In the general fund, to allocate an increase in appropriation for the coroner of Ascension Parish in the amount of $58,600. This is your council motion of December the 15th, 2005, and it's attached in case you want to refresh your memory. To appropriate $46,100 for salary and fringe benefits for municipal addressing coordinator and a salary adjustment for project supervisor for the planning and zoning department. This is a request from that department. And then the third dot is to appropriate $220,000 for operation, maintenance, purchase of capital equipment, and funding for programming to produce the government access channel in the ISGIS department's budget. And this was the council motion of January the 19th, 2006. And then the last bullet is to appropriate a transfer for $200,000, and that's a transfer in to the general fund from the sales and use tax district number 1 fund to fund these new appropriations. The next fund is the East Ascension Major Drainage Fund. That's to appropriate $157,200 to provide for a long-reach track hoe to proceed with the major drainage projects, and that was an East Ascension Drainage Board motion of February the 6th, 2006, attached also. And then the Sales and Use Tax Fund is to appropriate this transfer out to the general fund above to fund in the amount of $200,000 to fund the general fund's amended appropriations. Then we have a HUD Section 8 program. This is a new program allocation under Section 8 for the Katrina Disaster Housing Assistance Program. So we need a budget for it. It's an appropriation of a revenue and expense of $132,000, and that's for that Section 8 Katrina Disaster Housing Assistance Program to assist families and/or individuals who are Section 8 voucher holders from areas affected by Katrina and who wish to relocate to other communities. In our case, they're relocating to our community. If they were a Section 8 provider holder before the Katrina, then they can take their Section 8 voucher with them to their new relocation, and then we would start paying them with this grant money. And then on the second page is the Water Wastewater Fund. That's to allocate a revenue in the amount of $41,400 and appropriate expenditure in the amount of $39,300 for the balance of the UNO Lake Pontchartrain New River Restoration Grant. This was a grant that we thought we would close out in 2005. We did not, so we need to carry over the balance of the expenditures and revenues that will be expended and received in the 2006 budget. The same thing with the next one. It's a FEMA repetitive loss elevation and a fund. This is also a grant fund. It's to allocate revenue in the amount of $111,800 and appropriate expenditures in the amount of $167,700 for non-structural repetitive loss reduction project / acquisition and elevation project, Phase 5 grant. Like I said, same thing. They thought they would finish this grant in 2005. They did not, so we need to appropriate the appropriate revenue and expenditure that will be received and expended in 2006. And then the third one, all the next ones are dealing with Fire District number 3. Their regular fund, which is the percent they receive from the parish's half-cent sales tax, to increase acquisitions, vehicles, and equipment by $1,397,900 for acquisition purchases, and that would be based on the 2005 bond sale proceeds. To increase contract labor by $370,000 to provide for contract for firefighters, and this is actually a reimbursement put to the Prairieville Volunteer Fire Department. And then the Fire District number 3 dedicated fund, that's their new 10 meals and parcel fees that was approved by the electorate of that district last July. To decrease salary, fringe benefits, insurance, and workman's comp insurance by $500,000 to account for the reduction in full-time firefighters from the original board request to 6 full-time firefighters, a fire chief, and a secretary. They overestimated their health insurance. What they were doing in November was just actually, putting figures there because they knew the bond proceeds would come in. They weren't sure when, and this was after we adopted the budget in November. And then the second bullet is to decrease acquisitions, vehicles, and equipment by $225,000 and major repairs to buildings by $225,000 due to the allocation of the 205 bond issue funds are not necessary in this fund as originally budgeted and projected. They revised their plans. This was in the event that the sale proceeds from the bond did not come in a timely manner, and they wanted to go ahead and expend some of this money that they had from the millage itself instead of the bond proceeds. So actually, they're just reconstructing their budgets in accordance with the revenues they receive from the the bond proceeds, and allocating them either to the regular fund or the new fund. Both funds were dedicated, were secured by the bond sale. They used both funds to secure their bond sale. So they put in some expenditures in the regular account and some in their dedicated account. And then the third bullet is to appropriate a transfer out to Fire District Number 3 sinking fund. That's their debt service fund of $422,500, and that's to provide the debt service payments for 06. And then the last page is Fire District Number 3, their debt service fund, the sinking fund. Allocate a transfer in from Fire District Number 3 dedicated fund of the same amount, $422,500, to provide for their debt service payments in 06. And appropriate principal interest of $225,000, interest expense of $137,300, and a bank fee of $1,000 that they actually are going to pay out to the on debt service. And then their construction fund, we're establishing a construction fund, Fire District Number 3 construction fund. Appropriate contract payments of $1,200,000, architect and landscape expense of $120,000, professional services expense of $10,000, and land purchase expense of $72,000, with revenues received from the bond sale. And they basically stated they wanted to build a new fire station. So in the last page is the motions that prompted these budget amendments. And unless we have another major amendment to our budget, we probably won't amend it again till the fall when we adopt our 07 budget and amend our 06.
Thank you, Gwen. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Gwen on any of these amendments? I thought she explained it pretty thoroughly. Mr. Savoy?
Yeah, Gwen, you mentioned that the driving force for bringing this budget amendment up in April versus June was because of the fire district?
3. Now, if you recall, the council authorized a contract with Fire District Number 3 and the parish, whereby we would do the accounting for them, and also that they would follow not only accounting, we would do their payroll, their purchasing. They will be included in our audit. We will take care of their budgets for them, included in the budget for the parish, and follow all the laws dealing with the Local Budget Act. And we also will account for their fixed assets. We will provide them our insurance if they so desired, but they did not. They chose to go out on a different kind of health insurance. And we met with Harry Robert, our insurance agent, and he was in agreement with what they were doing. And also, they could use our grant, have access to our grants department, and the legal. They shall use the legal counsel of the parish, and they shall use our official journal and our fiscal agent. And in return for that, the fee would be 4% of their annual revenues.
Okay. Bill, this one's for you. As far as this amendment for major drainage, going after this Long Reach track hole, where are we with that? Are we waiting on this amendment to get it ordered and get it coming? I was under the impression that we had it.
We
already.
have it.
Okay.
We didn't. The
You
direction
see-
of the council said to go ahead and. Well, what we did, we leased a Long Reach. That's what we've been working with, the leased, until we would receive our own.
And,
Okay.
and also, Jerry, you'll notice that was from the Drainage Board meeting. It was authorized in February.
But that's what's throwing me off a little bit. I thought we'd already moved on this and it was done deal.
Well, it was,
it
because
was.
that's how we amend our budget. Remember, we got with our auditors and our legal counsel. Instead of amending our budget every meeting from a simple motion, that the motion would authorize the departments or whatever's involved to proceed.
Okay.
And then we would.
We're simply moving the money from where it is to where it should be in order to accomplish this task. But the task has been done. We just
Yeah.
have to make it formal.
We'd make a
Okay.
formal budget amendment, at least semi-annually.
All right, let's go up to general fund, bullet point number 2. to appropriate $46,100 for salary and fringe benefits for municipal addressing coordinator. I need some clarification on who is that? Are we adding another personnel in that department?
Yes.
Or is that someone that's here already?
No, that'll be a new position. That position is not filled right now, and it's an additional person.
The prior one has resigned, in
Okay.
'05 maybe.
Okay. What about the salary adjustments for project supervisor? What project are we talking about under?
When we hired Marion Johnson Miles, she was assumed to be doing the work to back up Charles Becknell and Lance Brock, and she has assumed the additional duties of floodplain administrator, and we wanted to give her recognition for that in addition to supervising an address coordinator.
All right. Okay. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other questions on this, on the budget amendments? Then we will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, second by Mr. Thompson, to approve these budget amendments and present them at the next council meeting as an introduction to an ordinance, because we must amend, the budget by ordinance, and that's what you're doing here tonight. Is there any further discussion? Is there any opposition? Then the motion passes. Ms. Suzanne, would you please add that as an introduction to an ordinance on the next council meeting? Thank you. All right, Ms. Gwynn, you're still there, so we'll move into item number 9, and those are the monthly finance and department reports. And we have yourself and also our assistant treasurer, Ms. Amanda Barat, to make those presentations.
Okay, first we'll go over the sales and use tax report. I think everybody's familiar with it. And this shows our 3 sales tax districts. Ascension Drainage has a half-cent sales tax, and then our, actually 2 sales tax districts, sales tax district number 1 and sales tax district number 2. You can see that this is March collections, which is actually February sales, and the comparison to March '06 to '05. East Ascension Drainage was up 23.97%, and the year-to-date follows pretty closely at 23.16%. The 1 cent sales tax district, March '06 compared to '05, it was up 20.10%, and year-to-date, 19.59%. And the half-cent sales tax district, March '06 compared to '05, was up 18.92%, and year-to-date, 19.3%. The sectors, where's activity, basically, it's in the following sectors. This is just for the month of March compared to March '05. Retail was up 53%, contractors was up 35%, and motor vehicles was up 54%. Retail and motor vehicles continue to show strong increases, although motor vehicles should not stay at this level as long as retail. So we anticipate that motor vehicles should start dropping, and that we hope retail will stay strong. We've added some major retail businesses in our parish over the last year, and that's a factor, as well as post-Katrina issues. And behind that, you can see the normal charts. The first one is just a bar chart showing you the increase from March '06 to March '05. The blue depicts the rest of the year of '05, so you can see that, '06 is ahead of '05. And then the last one is a historical chart that goes from '96 to 2006. And you can see that first peak, and hopefully we're starting a second peak. So we'll see how '06 plays out with our strong retail base. And there is some activity that's starting to go on in the chemical part, so hopefully that'll continue also or improve.
Gwen, later on in this meeting, we're going to discuss some projections that your office made on sales taxes 20 years into the future. And those projections were based upon from 1995 to 2005. So the projections don't really consider these increases at all, do they?
Right. No, that's strictly a historical projection. It was done by the Sales Tax Authority, and just, you know, you have to bear in mind that they're not economists, they're just accountants, so they just base that on a historical increase and an average of that increase and projected that out into the future.
And also, when we're projecting income from whether they be sales taxes or property taxes or fees or whatever, we do take the most conservative projection, the most conservative course, yes?
Right.
Questions for Ms. LeBlanc on these reports, these very encouraging reports? Thank you, Gwen. You're welcome here anytime
Yeah.
when you're bringing reports like these.
As long as I
So,
do, huh? Okay, and now Ms. Amanda Barat will give the monthly report, a little briefing of it. Amanda.
Good evening. This is the monthly report for the month of February, and it's at 17% of the budget at this point in the year. All of the funds right now are in balance at this time. If you want to review them, if you find anything that's over the budget, it's either because there's an encumbrance that's on the books for the whole year, or some of the departments purchased their equipment already for the year. But those are the only things that would affect making the budget look like it's over. Do you want me to go through each line item, or do y'all want to just review it? Or?
Does anybody want to go through this report line by line? Have you glanced through it and seen anything that puts it out of skew? Remember, these are February numbers. Next month's council meeting will have the first quarter,
Right.
and those will probably be more significant numbers. So these are just kind of the first 2 months of the year to show us where we are and perhaps where we're going, hopefully where we're going. Does anybody have any questions or any comments on this information that's being presented to you? Mr. Hillensbeck.
Amanda, some time back I brought up the issue of the lighting district number.
Yeah, speaking to your
Lighting
microphone,
district
please.
number 8 that we created by ordinance.
Yes, sir.
And even though the tax election didn't pass, I wanted lighting district number 8 listed on the budget reports.
Okay.
Can we start doing that?
Yes.
Okay, and the other item is under the you're listing under other funds.
Uh-huh.
The last sheet of the report on the you're listing trailer land maintenance fund.
Yes.
Would you change that, please, to read Hope Villa Estates Fund, because that's no longer trailer land.
Oak Villa.
Hope Villa Estates. That's that waste treatment facility in the rear of that subdivision.
Okay.
It's Hope Villa Estates. Thank you.
Would you? Thank you.
That's all right, even though lighting district number 8 is an unfunded fund, it's a fund nonetheless. So let's go ahead and include that in the report. Are there any other questions?
In fact, for clarification, just list it just like up above where you have Country Ridge Sewer System, listed as Hopeville Estates Sewer System.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have anything? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And we'll move into item number 10, and this is a contract for Dr. Mark Viator, Ph.D., for the evaluation of our drug-free communities grant. We have Dr. Paul Keller, our grant consultant, to make this presentation.
This is a renewal of a process that every year after the completion of, you have to have an outside individual evaluate not the financial portion of it, but the performance portion of it. And this has been done in the past. It's just a renewal for this coming project that is just being completed now. And it's paid for out of the grant. There's the fiscal
So moved,
note.
Mr. Chair.
Motion by Mr. Byriger, second by Mr. Todd Lambert to renew this contract. Is there discussion? Is there opposition? Then the
Yeah.
motion passes, and we will put this on the next council agenda for full consideration. Mr. Keller, item number 11 is yours as well, Governor's Safe
Yeah.
and Drug-Free School Grant
Yeah,
application.
we have 3 of them that we're asking you to, and these are resolutions. authorizing the parish president to sign these applications. The first one is the substance abuse prevention funding, and it's going to bring in $38,860. On a fiscal note, there is zero match for money from the parish. What we will have is that we're going to be able to claim from the program in-kind contributions. We'll have 40% of one of the people's salary, 25% of someone else's salary, and 10% of someone else's salary. So it's a way of getting money back into the system.
Dr. Keller, do you have a document on that? Could you put that on the scanner right there in front of you, and perhaps everybody then can see it? It will show up on the monitors and on the overhead.
I have to twist it to focus it a little bit. Can you
I'll always,
turn it
from
down?
now on, I'll do them in bigger prints when we've scanned them.
Could we
Here
focus
comes
that
our
a
whiz
little bit?
kid, Ozzy, to the rescue.
Oh, okay. Good.
Well, I can see that without my glasses. There you go.
Okay, this is the one we're looking at, 37,660. And over,
Okay, slow down there.
wait, over here
Okay.
is how it's divided up as far as in-kind is concerned.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Barger, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert to approve this resolution. Is there discussion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Then the motion passes, and we will put it on the agenda for full consideration of the council next week.
The next one is the one that goes with it for the treatment portion.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion
Second.
by Mr. Savoy, second by
That's
Mr.
$60,000
Barger.
a year.
Is there discussion? Is there opposition? The motion passes. Mr. Son, please include that as well.
And the third and last one is the governor's safe and drug-free. That's the one that operates with the court system. And
Motion
with
by
the-
Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Shakespeare to include, to pass it. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Keller, thank you very much. All right, then we have item number 12, and this is a contract renewal for Lofton Staffing Services, and we'll call up our Personnel Director, Mr. Roy Katz, to give us information about that. This is an annual renewal. Mr. Thompson, you have a comment before we get going?
Mr. Katz, had we looked at Louisiana staff, and I know last year we talked about adding them as,
Yes, we've used them some this year. It came in late last year. What I'm trying to do is, I don't particularly like two contract groups working in the same job site or in the same work group. So as much as I can give them doing something else, Jackie Ricardo, for example, came through Louisiana staff, and we give them some business. They also will have an opportunity, receive the same notice, and once we hear from them, I'll come back to you with their agreement. But they are in the process. This is not a bid process. This is services that they're offered. So
I understand, but we also talked about it last year that we would look at Louisiana staffing to help and assist with some temporary work.
we are. That's all I can tell you. The big bulk of what we've done this year, and the reason we've used Lofton is because of the grass cutters. They've got safety people on staff that come in and help us as well. But anything else outside of that, I'll look at either one of them, or we'll look at either one of them to supply us the people.
Have we gotten all the grass cutters and trained?
I can't answer that question, Constable. Bill may know, but I don't have any idea. At this point, I would think we do.
The reason I asked because you say that Laughlin have grass cutters, and I just was wondering, had we got everybody trained and ready to go because of the grass is growing pretty rapidly.
Again, all I can tell you is they tell us how many to get, and we bring them in. Okay.
Bill, you want to go ahead and respond to that right quick before we?
Yes, sir. I think we're waiting on maybe one more temporary personnel for the weed control, but that's it. It's been applied for, and I think we're waiting on the training of that one person. But other than that, we're manned up for it.
Before we go into any further debate, Roy, why don't you go ahead and make this presentation on the contract? Is there any?
Yeah, this is basically
this is item number 12. You have it in your packet.
What I asked Lofton to do, rather than give us all the pages and everything that they've done for the last few years, is just get it down to the nuts and bolts. And basically, it's no increase over last year what they're charging on there as far as their cost and what we're going to be paying to the people in the different slots. We also have one security officer at the present time at the mental health unit, and we had looked at some. As a side note on that, we had looked at something else because these people do work after hours, and this is kind of a risky situation with some of the individuals that are over there. So we're all looking at that, but basically, I'm just asking you to renew the agreement that we had with Lofton last year and go into it this year.
Discussion, Mr. Hillensbeck.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Katz.
Yes, sir.
When you come back with that information, come back with a breakdown, a number of employees from Louisiana Staffing.
Sure.
Because I know, and I appreciate Mr. Thompson's concern. Louisiana Staffing is an Ascension-based company.
That's correct.
And we'd like to spend money locally as much as we can.
In fact, we had asked for another company that's down here. It's not local, but they have an office here, and they wouldn't match some of the requirements as far as the insurance and all, and Louisiana Staffing did. So it's like anything else. We've really not used a lot of temporary help other than the grass cutters, but, I'll be glad to do that. That's no problem.
Appreciate it.
Is there any further discussion? Is there a motion?
Move to accept the contract.
Motion by Mr. Schexnayder, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert, that we accept this contract renewal for full consideration by the council at the next meeting. Is there any opposition to the motion? Then the motion passes. Suzanne, would you please put that down on the next council meeting for next week?
Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Item number 13 is the acceptance of credit cards for our permitting process, and we have our Planning and Development Director, Mr. Tom Fansett. That's me, Tom. That's not you, but you can go ahead and look anyway.
And I'm Randy. There we go.
There we go.
Over the years, it has come to our attention in the building department, even before I got there, that people who come to us as builders and subcontractors would like to have us have a credit card service. As far as I know, it's never come for an up or down vote, which we are bringing tonight. It looks to us that the need for the credit card service is increased. The contractors, subcontractors, and builders see an extended period of time and travel across the parish to get to our office. And even though we have added staffing and we continue to have to add people because of the doubling in the service and the number of permits that we're handing out, they still have a wait in the waiting room. The credit card service to the parish would require us, if you can see the number, to provide a transfer of funds to the building and permit department of $4,075 a month. There's an additional one-time setup fee of $8,227. So what I'm asking is for you to make a motion, transfer general funds to the Building and Permits Department for the remainder of this year for a total of $40,800.
And I had discussions with the administration on this issue, and yes, when you accept credit cards, you agree that you're going to forfeit a certain small percentage of the fee income that comes in. This parish does not live by fee income. We live by sales taxes and property taxes and so forth. However, it's the belief that this will considerably streamline the process for contractors and for everyone else to do business with this parish. Credit cards are pretty much the way things are going now. Fewer and fewer people are using checks. Checks are more costly to process and take a longer period of time. And I had a good discussion with Mr. Katz and with Mr. Fansett a week or so ago about this. And I would hope that this council would consider it. And remember, this is the Finance Committee. You've got another week to gather information and talk about this and learn more about this before you make your final decision, because it is going to be a decision of the full council and not, it's just a recommendation of the Finance Committee. But if any of you are like me or like most people, you do business by credit card and not by check or not by cash, certainly. And we're just going to streamline the process, and we'll finally bring ourselves into the 21st century. I would hope that this committee and then the council finally would consider allowing the administration to do this. Mr. Thompson, you have a comment?
Chairman, I appreciate that. But this is the first time that I had a chance to look at this, and I'd like to suggest that we send it to the Strategic Planning Committee and talk about it, and then bring it back to the full council with a recommendation.
I appreciate your comment and your request, Mr. Thompson, but this is a financial issue and not a planning or strategic issue, and that's why it's here. This is a committee now.
I understand it's a finance.
We're not going to gloss over anything here, certainly, and I have no intention of doing that. I want all of the information to come out. This is a committee of the council, and we certainly want to discuss every aspect of this. And I appreciate the fact that that this is the first time that you've heard any of this. But often always at our committee meetings, it's the first time you've heard anything. And this is a committee of the council, and we want to talk about it. Mr. Byriger?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fansett, what exactly is the $40,000? Is that an estimation of the fees we're going to forfeit by using these credit cards, or can you explain where the fee comes in, please?
That's based on between $350,000 and $400,000 worth of contractor, builder, and subcontractors coming in and using their credit card and using it in the most expensive way. If we had a rapid connection like Walmart does, it would be a lesser fee. If they come in and we fill out a card and send it in the mail, it's a higher fee. The calculation by the purchasing department was the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario was that the cards would be used in the least efficient manner and that every single builder and subcontractor would use a credit card for the remainder of this year. It's not likely to cost us that much. But as you know, with our finances, we said earlier, we use the most conservative approach.
Surely we can get a lot closer than $40,000. I just can't see it costing them. I mean, I can't see it costing half of that.
I'm doing the presentation. I was not involved in the negotiations. The purchasing department was in several credit card companies, and they did all of the work.
Are you finished, Mr. Byriger? Mr. Todd Lambert.
Yeah, Ms. Gwen, I might want to address this to you. The permits that we issue out and collect fees from throughout the year, do we have a balance on that, or we break even, or do we have to come out of our funding as far as inspectors and everybody in this department? It doesn't pay for itself is what I'm asking?
It's pretty close. It's one of our departments that almost equals out on the
Almost. It doesn't have a little surplus to cover this. This would be an expense.
But just a clarification from our legal advisor, it's not a deduction from the fee because you can't reduce the fee we charge. It's just an extra expense to the council. I think the purpose of bringing up this is to let you know that if we implement a credit card program, it will cost the parish, and in a worst-case scenario, and if 100% of them use it, it could cost you that much. I don't know, to what degree or what percent will use it, but what we really need also is you to approve the contract for the credit card program with Ms. Tom Nova. Is that?
It's Nova Innovation Solutions. That's right.
So,
Todd, Councilman Lambert has pointed out an interesting fact that I'm glad it came up at this point. The building fees have not been increased since the day they were instituted.
And we don't want to increase them.
We have one fee that we looked at that does not cover our cost, and that's the late hour inspection fee of $100. We have a 4-hour minimum payout, and of course that doesn't cover our costs. We have tried to get on the agenda a couple of times, and we've missed Ricky, and Ricky's missed us in the thing. That one fee, we would want to see you make an increase. It tends to be used by builders who are on the road to have us go out and do a checklist of what's left to do on the job. And it's only fair that
the parish at least break even on that. The rest of the fees I have taken and sent to various counties in the United States that claim to be fast-growing. Every one of us that are fast-growing are wanting to compare our fee schedules, not just for building department and permit fees, but also for subdivision fees and so forth. And I haven't got back those results. Those people met in San Antonio last week at the American Planning Association. But the fastest-growing parishes and counties in the United States are struggling to meet their costs. You've seen us ask for you to approve a budget amendment to add an additional person. We've done twice as much work over the last 8 months as prior, and probably added 4 people to do that work, and that's really remarkable. You all need to be proud of that.
I know that in the first 3 months of this year, we've issued something like 500 residential building permits, Tom?
It's nonstop.
It's incredible. In the first 3 months of this year, 500.
8 months ago, we had breaks during the day where we actually stood in the halls and talked to each other, the employees. We don't get those breaks anymore. And most of the people are appreciative of the service that they get, even though our waiting room usually has 2 to 6 people in it, which is a shame, but that's the reality of it.
Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Yeah, Tom, you was the wait time while they get their permits. What is the how many people are in the waiting room?
No, we manage that. What happens is those of us that have other duties, when we see that, one of the 2 or 3 receptionists, depending on how we're staffing that day, will come and get people to come to the window and distribute people. Ms. June takes on the role of Lance II. Marion Johnson Miles takes on the role of a second. Charles and we all kind of pitch in to get that waiting room down. So anytime it gets to 6, we reverse roles and people pitch in. And we do not take lunch break. We cover each other during lunch.
Another question. Will they be able to call in with their credit card and do this over the phone?
That's what they want to do. They want to stop the travel across the parish to come in and give us a check.
Mr. Chairman, I think just about every utility company that we have in the parish here is going to this. It really helps. You don't have people waiting in the lobbies, and I would say we need to move in this direction.
When you say move, does that mean motion, Mr. Dempsey Lambert?
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Dempsey Lambert, second by Mr. Hillensbeck. We have additional discussion by Mr. Jerry Savoy.
Yeah, Tom, can you forward a copy of what you've got to the council members?
I'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, please do that. Please also be prepared to explain to the council how the streamlining is going to work as far as utilizing the card system. How's that going to streamline your department's work so far as time? You're saying that if they go to a card system, they would not have to come to the parish?
The builder will have to come to the parish, but he can still use his credit card. The subcontractors won't have to.
Right, that's what we need an explanation.
That's exactly right.
Show me how you're going to cut down the traffic and through your department by going with the card.
And
Okay.
everyone, obviously, is invited to come in and sit with us anytime during the day, and we can talk about it before the next meeting.
Okay, and also, I'd like to know, Ms. Gwynn, I'd like to know how close we are to breaking even in that department breaking even. Okay, that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
I have 2 small items. This high-tech room that you're in and the room next door, I wanted you all to know that we're doing cross-training with the IT and GIS department. Last night we had Lester and Randy and VJ and Trent, and Dr. Farrell Jones happened to be here on that day. They were here to do a very long planning commission meeting lasting past 9 o'clock. The additional zoning commission meeting went another hour or so. So they were here until 10:30, or maybe didn't get home till 11 last night. And they're here again tonight, just 2 of them, Lester and Randy, excuse me. So if you get a chance to say thanks, I'd appreciate it.
Thank
And
you,
lastly, I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Easter holiday weekend, and thank you.
You didn't get your vote yet, Mr. Fancett. Wait till you say thank you till you get your vote. Is there any further discussion on this issue? Is there any opposition to the motion?
Object.
Object also.
Objection by Mr. Byriger and Mr. Todd Lambert. Otherwise, the motion carries. Suzanne, would you please put that on the agenda? And Mr. Fansett and Ms. LeBlanc and everybody involved, you have your working orders to get ready for the next council meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Savoy.
may I ask that y'all forward that to us as soon as you get it? Don't wait till packet time.
Yes,
if
please,
you
of course,
can.
that's understood.
Okay.
Get that across so that the people can start studying it now. Item number 14 is coming to us from our Transportation Committee, and this involves lighting at Interstate 10 and the Highway 73 interchange as part of the road project and the parish-wide lighting cost. Chairman Cheryl Fontenay.
That'll come from our Department of Public Works Director, Mr. Rue.
The transportation meeting, at the transportation meeting, we discussed the situation at the I-10 LA 73 intersection project. What's happening there, just to bring everybody up to par, we are cooperative endeavor agreement with DOTD to renovate that intersection, putting turn lane, double turn lane going on, 2 turn lanes coming off, and an extra turn lane coming from New Orleans onto Highway 73. In doing so, we looked at the situation of the lighting out there. All our intersections, especially on the interstate, need to have permanent lighting for safety purposes. Because there's a cost share on this, DOTD said that they will participate in putting the lights at that intersection, the construction cost of that. But it's incumbent upon the parish to pay for the maintenance and for the electricity bill once they're put up. And the Transportation Committee voted to recommendation to bring it to the full council to do so. Right now, we do not exactly have it together, where the money is going to come from, how we're going to fund it. But before we can go any further with it, we have to get a commitment from the parish to say that you will find the money and you will take over the maintenance and electricity bill once they're constructed.
Mr. Byriger.
Yes, Mr. Root, do we have an estimation on cost, yearly, monthly, anything, maintenance?
Not
Electricity
really.
bill?
We have 2 other intersections, but one is in Gonzales, both of them in Gonzales, actually, at 44 and at LA 30. We also have one in Sorrento. But I couldn't give you those figures, how they broke out per year.
Those are already in existing lighting districts, Bill?
I think we've got one that's in the lighting district, which is 44, and also
Be kind of tough to vote
30.
for something you don't know what it's going to cost.
Well, the downside of it is they'll just eliminate it from the project.
Yeah.
Mr. Hillensback?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had asked for us to be provided the numbers, the dollar figures, what it would cost to do parish-wide lighting. There was a good bit of discussion. I think Mr. Scheck-Snyder was involved, and he had some concerns about us randomly going out and doing lighting projects just out of general funds when we really need to light the entire parish. And, of course, if you look at your budget report that was handed out tonight under the lighting district system, towards the very back, and I could be wrong, Adrian, lighting district number 6, I think that contains the interstate lights at Highway 30 and possibly Highway 44, those interchanges. And if you notice, the budget for that particular lighting district is like 10 times greater than the other lighting districts, and it's because the other lighting districts don't have those interstate lights. So you're talking a very large dollar amount that would be coming out of the general fund on an annual basis to light those, that particular intersection. And I'm not against doing the intersection, but I'm against doing the intersection just out of the general fund when I really think we need to look at parish-wide lighting for the benefit of all of our citizens and possibly doing away with the millages that are collected in the 7 lighting districts that are currently funded. And that's what I'd asked for, and I'd hope, and maybe Gwen, maybe you didn't get that information. I actually sent an email to Martin, but that's what we would like to see, as I understood it that night. Ken, am I wrong on that? Isn't that what we asked for? Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, I had you next.
Yes. The lighting district 6, Highway 30 and 44 in that lighting district. And the maintenance is pretty expensive on those lights. One of the major problems we're having is when they have a car accident and somebody hit one of those poles, if the police department don't turn it in, it gets expensive because you lose a whole bank of lights. And out of the lighting district fund, we have paid as much as $6,000 per light that's been out, either from a tractor cutting the interstate or a car running off the road. So I think we need to look at that real hard. I kind of disagree with creating one lighting district for the whole parish. At certain areas, it's just not going to vote to put another millage on the ballot. I mean, pass another millage. It just ain't going to happen.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Schexnayder had you next.
Well, and I certainly agree with Councilman Thompson on those issues. I want to make sure everyone understands I am very much for the lighting of the intersections. I think it's very, very important. This is a dangerous situation. This is not something that you play around with. The interstate intersections should be lit, and they should be maintained, and they should be done so by the parish. It's a totally different entity than local roads, through roads, or anything else. These are well-traveled roads. These are people that stop here and spend their money here. My only concern was that we have some of them that are paid for with millages that they've set forth on themselves, and then others that we plan on doing differently by the general population, and these people that have already set a millage upon themselves will be paying again. Therefore, my proposal would be just to take all of the interstate exchanges and put them in the same category, where everyone in Ascension Parish pays for the interstates, where everyone uses them. And I think that's a fair thing to do. I think we need to do it. We need to have lights there. It's a dangerous situation when the lights are out. I've spoken with, and Sorrento, I think, is taking over the maintenance of the Sorrento lights there, putting them up. And they're struggling again. They just paid $13,000 to get those back up, and it went out again. And it's just an ongoing thing. I would also like to propose, and I've spoken with some electricians, and when you talk with Energy does not fix the lights. They won't touch them. They require the parish to go out and hire contract labor from these construction companies, electrical construction companies, and they charge a premium fee when they come out here on an individual basis. And one of the things that I would like to see is us getting somebody on board as a task order, and it does not have to be a big company, because if we had somebody that's qualified, find somebody that would take upon this as a task, I think we would cut our costs down tremendously. That could go out there and just maintain these lights as they are broken, and they could have a maintenance contract or something like that. But we're not getting information back about how much it costs us per year on these intersections, and so it would be hard unless we would see something. It would be hard to make a decision on which direction we would go. But I would sure like to see a maintenance contract. If we have a light goes out, we should have a light put back up within a week. This is something that's a dangerous situation. We need to do whatever it takes to keep that going. The lights are there. This project needs to have those lights included in the construction costs. Whatever we decide to do, we need to make sure that this gets onto that thing, because the costs triple after you try to add that later on in the construction. So I'm very much for this happening at that intersection, but I would sure like to see administration taking a look at how we can do this effectively and maintain these lights at a lot less cost than what we're doing now.
Thank you, Mr. Shakespeare. Mr. Todd Lambert?
Yeah, Mr. Bill, under negotiation with DOTD, how did it come that we would do the maintaining of the lights instead of maybe doing the construction part of them? Because it looked like to me the maintaining, and it's going to be a whole lot more costly than the original construction costs of these lights.
The state will not take over maintenance. They'll do construction, but they do not take over maintenance and paying the electricity bill. The local agency has to
and that's on
commit.
all parishes throughout the
Right.
state.
Now, what we can do is a possibility, and I don't think it's anything, I don't think DOTD object to it. We can include this into the plans to put these lights in. And that'll give us time all the way up to the letting of the bid, probably, to either say yes or no. When they let the bid, they can exclude the actual putting up the lights at those locations if the council, says that they don't want to participate. So we can include it in the plans. This is not due until December of the end of this year, to 06. So I think we have some time to really take it under more consideration and make the decision on it. But again, I can include it in the plans.
Mr. Jones, back, you had a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Thompson, I wasn't advocating passing a new tax or a new millage for parish-wide lighting parish-wide. What I was proposing is that we look at funding parish-wide lighting strictly out of the general fund. The sales tax collections are up, and of course I don't have the dollar amount what it would take to take on such a project to fund it, but that's what I was asking for and hoping that we would we'd get that information tonight, start looking at it. Now, the administration last night in the Transportation Committee came forth with the idea of street lighting on the major highways for improvement that they're talking about doing down the road should we pass a half-cent sales tax for road improvements. Bill, you might want to comment on that, how we might could do some street lighting with those dollars.
Well, it's part of the, and again, it's a conceptual plan for us, the spending of the impact fee money, like we went over in the transportation meeting. But part of that plan is when a four-lane highway is built, and mostly what we're talking about, four-lane highways throughout the parish. In such a case, we plan on building a four-lane highway similar to the type you have going through Gonzales, outside of Gonzales, something that lasts the parish into the 2030. So when we build a four-lane highway, we're looking at establishing lights at major intersections, and which is the interstate is probably the major intersection along some of these major highways. Do it right the first time, so we don't have to come back and worry about it later. So again, this is just a conceptual plan. The lights, again, is to do it. Our thoughts are to do it right the first time, which if it needs lights, we put lights in when the construction project goes forth.
Ms. Fontenot.
This wasn't discussed at the last transportation meeting, but the meeting before, if I remember correctly. And I didn't get a copy of the Finance Committee agenda this time. I think one of the parish secretaries is out ill. And when I checked to look for the agenda, it wasn't there, and I sent her an email, and I now know why I didn't get anything back, and that was because she was out. So I didn't know that these two items were on here, and I normally go back and review the minutes to, make sure what was going on. But as I remember, there was a lengthy discussion about it, and I think that the majority of the members did want more information about the funds and how it would fund. I think we all agree that if they're going to do work at this intersection, that it would be appropriate that they, go ahead and put these things together and get it into construction phase, because it would be more costly to come back and put lights up. So we all agree that this is something that needs to be done at the time that they do this intersection. It's just that we don't really know where the funds will come or the exact plan that we need to go with. Some of these guys that have lighting districts have a concern because their people are paying a millage. This is an intersection that everybody in the parish probably uses or travels there at some point in time. So it's not that it's not something that the parish, that just a certain district is going to use, but the parish itself and outsiders that are traveling through our parish. But Bill, if you can get us some information, if you guys feel more comfortable, I don't mind calling a special meeting to just deal with this if we can get something, because we do need to make a decision on this. This is not something that we can just let go, because they do want to start construction and getting their plans together. And DOTD is interested in doing the construction part, so we do need to solve this problem. We just need to have all the pieces to the puzzle in order to make the proper decision. So
Ms. Fonda, you're suggesting that this go back then to the Transportation Committee for additional discussion and study?
I think we need more information. I think just to determine that we're going to do something, we would have too many. We may kill something that we really don't want to kill because we don't have the proper information, and I think we really need to go back and do it properly.
Mr. Shakespeare.
I think one thing I want to make sure we don't miss, would it be appropriate to make a motion for him to continue with the process while we make a decision on what we're going to do? At any time, Mr. Ruid said that we can stop and actually not put it on there. I would not want to stop the process if we do work things out and this works for us, and at any time we can stop the construction at the end and not go forward with the letting of the bids. Am I correct on that?
Actually, I don't need any action of the council to do that. I can give direction to Krebs, LaSalle, and Lemieux, who's doing the design work. They're working for us. And I just can tell them to go ahead and include it into their plans.
Okay.
And then we'll make a decision, like I said, before it gets to bid, on exactly where we stand on it.
Yeah, because we don't want to stop it if we can work things out.
Well, and particularly since Ms. Fontenot is agreeable to call a special meeting to consider this if need be. So I think it looks to me as though this is the will of the people at this desk, that this is something that we certainly want to look into, we certainly want to proceed on, but we want to make sure we have all of the information so that we can make the best decision possible before we proceed. But again, I don't know that we're prepared to take action at this committee tonight. Mr. Samboy, we haven't heard from you on this.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to identifying a intersection in the parish and try to deem it to be unsafe, we don't know if that particular intersection is the worst intersection that we have in the parish, and regardless of the number of vehicles that go through that intersection, is that the worst one in the parish? All intersections are bad or have a potential of being bad. When you start identifying or isolating one at a time or try to catch them one at a time, you want to make sure that you're going to reach out and spend money on the worst one, and that is by traffic incident counts. I don't know if that's the best route to take. There's a couple of options here. One, remember that State Representative Mert Smiley was working on a little lighting plan. We might want to touch base with him and see if he's still moving that forward and how he feels about that being a successful project, where that might be able to come in to play as far as paying for it. So far as the construction and the construction design, yes, I think it's only prudent from the state standpoint, that we would include the construction design to have lights there, whether it comes during construction or if it comes back. At least you plan for it, because we know, we have a good feeling that it's going to come. Now, it may not come with this construction, this project, but it will come, so it should be in the plans. I agree with that. There's a couple more options that you can think, you can look at. You can possibly look at extending an existing lighting district. I don't know how far Mr. Thompson's lighting district gets to that particular intersection, but you might be able to extend it. Or you might look at creating another lighting district and including that one. That's a couple of other issues. So far as the parish taking on a project, a parish-wide lighting project with the existing funds that we got today, gentlemen, take a look at the budget and take a look at the needs throughout the parish. I don't think that's a valid avenue to take. But anyway, with those things being said, you can take all that information back to your committee and kick that around. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Mr. Hillensbeck, you had a final comment?
Yeah, I think what I'd recommend to Bill is excuse me, let's do the plans without the lights, and then let's just do a separate item, an add-on item on the lights. And then we can look at it. We want to include it.
Bill, it doesn't cost any more to draw the lights in the plan as to draw them out, does it?
No, you can put them in the plans and just exclude them in the bid
just
documents.
put them in the plan. Just put them in the plan and don't bid them.
That's right.
Okay.
Right. Excuse me, before I relinquish the floor here, we just had the budget report just a little while ago, and we're through end of March, month of March. We're showing we're up over budget $797,000 on the three sales tax collections. So I don't know if I'd rule out a parish-wide lighting district or not until we have a chance to see the numbers and see the cost. And I'd like to see that, Gwen, if you can get that for me.
Ms. Fontenot, I'm going to leave it to you. Oh, I have Mr.
You
Got a few more names. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'll go last if you want.
Yeah, because it is your committee. If you don't, we haven't heard from Mr. Thomas, and he would like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we're all talking about the lighting, question come up about the Sunshine Bridge.
Wait. Let's leave it to this, please. I mean, we've already discussed this for a lengthy time. The item is I-10 at Highway 73.
Okay.
I really don't want to talk about the Sunshine Bridge, Coach. I really don't.
I just want to put it on the transportation agenda for the next transportation meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Blunt, would I have to go back to the vote of the people to extend my lighting district to go to Highway 73 and I-10?
Councilman Thompson, in the past we have expanded some lighting districts, and that comes under the purview of our bond council, so we could have them investigate that and see if that's, stretching it too far or not.
That's additional information that can be included in Ms. Fontenot's committee meeting when she hears this particular issue. Ms. Fontenot, final word for you.
Well, I just want to say that, this is not the worst intersection, but it is an important one because it's on an interstate, and it's on the exchange of two busy highways, that being Highway 621 and 73, and virtually those that are going to 74 also, so I guess you could include that highway also. And the whole point of the matter is that they're doing the construction on the road, and it's about being proactive and getting something, done rather than having to come back and tear up something to do it at a later date. And so I think the whole reason that we're looking at this right now is because there is new construction going on. It's something that's been identified as a need that should be at this particular type of intersection. And we just really need to take a look to see is how we're going to accomplish that, if we can accomplish it. And I thank you, Mr. Rue, for bringing it to our attention tonight, and we will work with you to see what we can get done.
Thank you very much, everyone, for a very good debate and a discussion, and we're going to refer this back to the Transportation Committee for additional discussion, and Ms. Fontenot will schedule it, and she will let you know when all of that's coming up. So we'll move into item 15, which is also a Transportation Committee item, and that is the cost sharing of the monumentation project. Ms. Fontenot.
That also is Mr. Rue. I think that's coming off of drainage, right? Didn't we discuss it there?
The Drainage Board agreed to participate in the monumentation installations benchmarks throughout the parish. The total cost of it is $500,000. The Drainage Board voted, however, to participate with a couple requirements, one of which is that the Corps of Engineers will participate up to $250,000, half of the project. And we do have a letter of commitment from the Corps that they can participate up to $250,000, or at least they're saying that it will be available to participate up to $250,000. They don't have it right now. They get it at certain times during the year, but they say that they will have it, should have it. I better say that. They should have it when it comes to that point. The other requirement is the Drainage Board will pay up to 75% of the remaining $250,000, and as long as the parish, through the Road and Bridge Fund, pay for the remaining 25%. It went to Transportation Committee. The Transportation Committee agreed that this is a Finance Committee agenda item. So we're bringing it to the Finance Committee for debate and.
Mr. Chairman, motion to fund it through Road and Bridge, 25%.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Byriger, second by Mr. Thompson to fund this monumentation study. Does anyone have any discussion on this item? Mr. Hillenbeck?
Yeah, that's 25% of the 50-50 split. So we're looking at 250,000, so it'd be 25% through Road and Bridge of 250,000.
Yes, sir. So you're roughly looking at $62,500 per share, and roughly $190,000 for the Drainage Board share.
Ms. Suzanne, if you'd put that in the minutes.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Then the motion passes, and Ms. Suzanne, if you would please put that on the agenda of the April 20th council meeting. Okay. Item number 16. This is a discussion. I think all of your various committees have discussed this. You know, and President Hughes gave his State of the Parish address in February, and he came out with many proposals and initiatives that he wanted to put forth. And Council Chairman Savoy tasked each committee of this council with looking at and studying and discussing the various proposals made by the parish president in his State of the Parish address. And the particular proposal and initiative that was put forth was the dedication of 1/8 of the 1 cent sales tax from the general fund, and dedicating that to the water and wastewater fund. Mr. Fansich, I see you sneaking out, but you've got all my paperwork there. You want to show it? This at this moment actually is a good time. Do that. Sorry if I interrupted your scheduling there. Anyway, I apologize. I was hoping that I would have some paperwork to you, but one of the reasons that I was running right at the very last moment to come to this meeting was I pulled this off of my email just before I came here. Can you move that down just a little bit? You can see this is the highlighted portion of the parish president's address, and where he says, I propose tonight that the council place on the September ballot another proposition where you, my fellow citizens in the unincorporated areas of the parish, vote to dedicate 1/8 of the 1 cent undedicated sales tax currently being collected in the parish. This should give us the necessary funds to match federal grants that will go toward the construction of this treatment plant and the laying of sewer lines in the unincorporated areas of the parish. Now, I I discussed this issue with our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Gwen LeBlanc, and she gave a projection of what 1/8 of a cent sales tax would be. And what she did, she actually did the a historical history, or for want of a better term, of what that a 1/8 cent collected since 1995. So we have 10 years of history, and then it has also been projected out for 20 years. So you can see, if you're looking back in 1996, 1/8 of a cent would have collected $851,412. In 1998, it would have been $2.5 million, and you can see those numbers there projected. Now, then those bottom two rows that you're seeing is 2006. And again, I apologize that you don't have those copies here in front of you, but fortunately, we had the foresight to pay for this technology so you can look at it there. In 2006, 1/8 of a cent. And remember, as I asked Ms. Gwen earlier this evening, 1/8 of a cent. These are based on 1995, on 2005 numbers and historical numbers, not based upon these last 3 months. 1/8 of a cent should yield $1,440,741. Then going all the way over time, could you move it over just a little bit so we can see out to 2025? It's projected to bring in a little over $4 million, 1/8 of 1 cent. So now, and remember this too, this is not an additional 1/8 cent. This would be taking the 1 cent sales tax that we already are collecting and taking 1/8 of that. So we're reducing it from our collections and dedicating it to another purpose. Tom, could you show the paper that the other form that Councilman Savoy provided with it's got some little highlighted numbers, colored highlighted numbers. If you could show that, Ozzy, zoom out on that just a little bit so we can read the whole thing. Or Lester, whoever. All right, I think that's fine. Tom, move it down just so you can see the 1 cent collection in there. Maybe zoom in just a little bit more. Make it a little more visible.
There you go.
Yeah, that looks all right. Even I can read that without my glasses. You can see that general fund. In the year 2006, we're budgeted to collect a little over $5 million, $5.1 million. And then you can see how it is dedicated. You see the recreation fund is funded through that 1 cent sales tax. The FINS, Families in Need of Services, is funded out of there. The Lamar Dixon Fund comes out of that 1 cent. You can also see down at the bottom, Tom, you don't have to move the paper, but you can see down at the bottom the little marks that Jerry made. Out of the 1 cent, we also fund the county agent. We fund the Quad Area Community Action Agency, Capital Area Legal Services. Volunteer Ascension is funded. The Big Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank is funded. A lot of things are funded. The 1 cent sales tax is essentially what we have to spend for parish funding. Now, if we were going to dedicate 1/8 cent of the 1 cent sales tax, then obviously there are some things that we would probably need to consider whether these are really necessary services for the parish. Now, as Mr. Hillensbeck and as everyone else has pointed out this evening, sales tax collections are going pretty well, and they are greatly above budget. But remember, these are just for the first couple of 3 months of this year. We don't have a year behind us. I'm much more comfortable budgeting numbers when we have a year behind us. I don't want to base a full year of budgeting on January and February collections, because we're also talking, these are maybe Christmas sales figure. Who knows? Who knows what they're for? Maybe people are buying a lot of Mardi Gras beads. I don't know. So it's hard to say, well, we're collecting a whole lot of more tax money, so we're not going to have to give up some of this stuff. Tom, there's one more document in there, and this was provided by Mr. Jim Ryan, who I think you all know does a lot of financial consulting for the parish. And I asked Mr. Ryan, I provided him with those numbers that Ms. Gwen LeBlanc provided from the finance office. If we were to take that 1/8 cent and dedicate it, and based upon that, the 20 years of projections, if we were to dedicate 1/8 cent
to water and wastewater, and we're able to bond that particular amount based upon those numbers, what would those numbers be? And I apologize again, I pulled this off of my email as I was running out to come to this meeting. I was waiting on it, but can we focus that a little better? Can anybody? Oh, no, a little bit better than that, Ozzy.
That's
Yeah,
me.
okay.
I'll take the blame.
It-
What's
the,
I can go left or right.
It looks like we could, the number I'm looking at is $24 million. Is that what you all see? If we bonded that for 20 years, we could actually collect $24 million in bond.
And all your monitors, they're set for AV right now. If you switch them over to PC, you'll get a much higher resolution image. You just got to hit the button and wait a couple seconds and it'll cycle through the different settings.
Which one?
Fourth button.
Oh, okay.
Just hit it once and hit it again. It's probably 3 or 4 cycles until you hit the PC.
No statement.
Just keep going until you hit the PC.
There we go. Okay.
High resolution.
I can't see the monitors, Ozzy. Is that what the audience is seeing?
Yeah.
What is the TV audience going to see? What we're looking at, or what?
Nothing. You can't read it. Don't waste your time. We're getting that.
That was a learned comment from our auditor, Mr. Bert Falk. He can't read that. All right, here's let me read it to you. You can see these dates. June 1st, 2006 says source of funds, par amount of bonds is $24,270,000, and then the use of the funds by bonding out that tax figure, by use of the funds, deposit to project construction fund would be $23,500. $23 million, I'm sorry, $500. The cost of issuance, $300,000. Total underwriter's discount at 8% would be $194,000. Gross bond insurance premium would be $174,000, and then the surety bond would be $57,000. So that's how. That's where we would come from, $24,270,000, and that's by taking this 1/8 cent projected out 25 years. Bill, any idea, wild guess, using the swag method, what would it take to put water and wastewater in this parish? How big of a dent would $24 million make into that particular program?
If we use it for matching funds, and that's definitely what we use it for.
And that was the parish president's
Right.
proposal, is matching funds.
There's two major sources, well, there's several, 3 or 4 sources for it, but the 219 core money is usually a 25% match. Stag money is usually a 45% match. So you can basically figure maybe that going into maybe $100 million or so in actual funding, probably a little bit more. Total cost that we're projecting if we go with our comprehensive plan, and this is not completely everybody in the parish, but say 75% of the parish with utilities, sewer utilities, we're looking at $450 million over about a 30-year period. So that just gives you some numbers.
All right. And Gwen, if, as the parish president proposed, if we wanted to put something like this on the September ballot, when would we need to have all of our ducks in a row and all of this issue vetted out and completely understood in order to have this on the September ballot? What's the deadline for putting something? I know you presented something to us a month ago on elections, but what's the deadline to get something like this on the September ballot?
Right. And that information had all the deadlines and when you have to publish and everything. I can mail everybody one.
We have it. I know it was presented before. I hope the people kept it, but you don't remember off the top of your head.
I don't
huh?
recall. Maybe Malcolm, do you recall what it was?
We talked about in May. You and I were talking about the, don't have it in front of me.
I don't either. I don't know. I don't recall. I can get it, but I don't
Yeah,
recall.
it's a real tight deadline is what we're saying. In order to get something of this magnitude on the September ballot, we're coming up on a pretty tight deadline,
I
aren't
think
we?
so, yeah, because there's several publication deadlines you have to meet, and then you have to get to the Secretary of State the approved call by the council, by a certain date. I can get you those days, but I don't recall them by memory.
All right. Mr. Shakespeare, you had a comment.
Thank you, Mr. McCollum. I am neither for or against this at this moment. I'm looking for some information.
And this is a discussion. Thank you.
And one of the things, everybody keeps talking about the revenues increases and everything, which is fantastic. I'm really appreciative of that. But I think we're not taking a look at the forest for the trees. Also, cost of gasoline is going up from $1 to $2.5 to $3. Insurance is going up ridiculous amount of money. We're looking to expand a place for the parish offices to be. The cost of maintenance of doing everything is risen exponentially, and so I think these to stay within the services that we have, we're going to be having a little bit more leeway, but we're not in a financial windfall by any means, and so just make sure that everyone knows that. But my big thing is no one has said yet what is planned to be cut, because you're going to have to cut something. When you take 1/8 of what you're doing now, you're going to have to cut something. And so I just want to know what is the plan that we have that is going to be cut. And then we can decide whether we want to absorb that or change that or talk about that. But we're getting to the point now, and this proposal has been put up for a while, is to dedicate the money, but when you take something out, something has to go. And so I just want to know what the proposal is that we plan on cutting.
And to my knowledge, Mr. Shakespeare, there is no proposal at this time. And I think that was kind of the message to us, is that I propose to do this, and
I mean, that's the easy part. Yeah. We can dedicate it to whatever. But
what do you think we ought to cut? Mr. Hillinsback?
No problem.
I'm sorry, Mr. Savoy, then.
Yeah, I'm about like Mr. Shakespeare, other than I am leaning toward opposing it because of what I'm looking at, and I'm going to share with y'all my concerns about moving to dedicate 1/8 and what it may mean to us, the parish. Yes, the revenues are coming in very good, and for those of us that's been around for a couple of terms, we have experienced and enjoyed times in the past of good revenue years, but we've also experienced a couple of years that it decreased and we were pinching pennies. Okay, the 1 cent sales tax being the only non-discretionary funds that we have to operate the general fund and any other things. As you can go back to your bar chart and see the years where we've done good, but then it dropped down and all that. Well, what happens whenever we have a lull year? Okay, that's what you got to look at too, long-range plan. We, out of this particular 1 cent, we fund the road and bridge to the tune of $4 million. The road and bridge is not getting any cheaper. We're taking roads in by the miles now versus 12 years ago when I first got on board. So that's additional services that's going to have to need some attention later on. So you got to be careful there, not to dwindle your sources to take care of those services. There's several funds here that are mandates that we have no control over, that we have to fund, and we've seen an increase in those departments over the years. So we have to keep up. We have to keep up with those needs. The jail. I'm gonna go back and let's talk about the jail. I know that we've got the committee, and the committee is working very diligently to improve itself, its operations internally. But we just soon I'm faced the fact already. We're going to add more beds to that jailhouse, and I don't think that long in front of us. So where's some funding? How are we going to fund that? That's another thing to think about. Maintenance fund comes out of this. We just brought on the courthouse, a huge additional structure that we're going to have to maintain. Now, fortunately, it's new and it's not costing us a whole lot of money in maintenance now, but you know as things depreciate, you're going to spend more and more money. Another thing would be thinking about Lamar Dixon. Lamar Dixon is coming out of this too, okay? Lamar Dixon is getting to the point where you're going to have to start looking at some maintenance because it's been in operation like 7 years now, something like that. So whatever, but you're coming close to the time where you're going to have to start looking at some additional maintenance fees there. So that's something to think about. Economic development. We've established economic development, and we have dedicated 3 years of funding to them. Okay, what happens to that? And I think that everyone's been has spent some time with Kirk on this and the need to put more money into that particular area. So that's something that you want to look at. Pay raises and insurance increases, like Kent had said. There's a without this particular fund, if you squeeze this particular fund, this fund has been the fund that we have always gone to get some matching monies for grants. Or if we didn't have enough money coming through the grants, we always came to this particular fund to shore up and get the project done. I'm going to name a couple of them that's come out of this. We've got trail of land, which all this is sewer, and understand that money would go toward it, but there's a lot of sewer projects that's come out of this right here. Country Ridge, Hillaryville, Darrow, you had the smoke bin years ago that came out of this. Recreation is another one that's not getting any. We're at a crossroads when it comes to recreation. As far as not putting no more additional monies into recreation. Okay, we've been staying at this $800,000 to $1 million budget with recreation. Now you've had this influx of people coming in. At some point, we're going to get beat up enough to where you're going to be looking to put more money into recreation. It's just a matter of time. Okay, one thing to share information with you. If you go back to the proposition that was brought before the people years ago, and I'm not sure what years it was, they sold the 1 cent sales tax. Main purpose was to take care of administrative costs. There was 3 other entities, and I may get them wrong, but one was recreation, one was ambulance, and one was fire, I think. Now, over the years, we know Acadian Ambulance came in, and we just took that money, put it back in the general fund. But remembering that the people was sold on this part of putting monies into the recreation. So just for informational purposes there. So far as dedicated, yeah, everybody understands dedicated funds. You got to spend it in that particular area. There's one thing that I would offer for you to think about is we could do just like with the excess sales tax, we can do just like we have done over the years with the road construction. The parish president can submit a budget to the council where we pass a resolution stating any additional revenues over the budget would be put into the sewer fund. That means that we can do it ourselves. We don't have to go to the people to do it. And that way it doesn't tie us up to where if we have a revenue decrease a couple of years and things get tight, we can pull that money back to take care of the areas that's needed. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's what I see, and that's some of the concerns I got as far as moving forward with dedicating the 1/8 of the 1 cent.
Thank you, Mr. Savoy. And I'd also like to point out when you consider the state of Louisiana, because so much of the state's budget is dedicated by constitutional amendment. Whenever there is a fiscal downturn, whenever there is a downturn in the economy, and the state is forced to make budget cuts, because of dedication, they can only make cuts in health care or higher education. And they'll sit there and say, okay, what do you want to cut? And you find yourself in that position that's the only choices that you have. And if you continue dedicating portions of the money, and this 1 cent, this really is the only money that we have to spend on the different projects that we have. Also, I mean, and I'm not going to sit here and pour mouth to the people, but we are one of the lowest funded agencies in this parish. We are the one agency that everybody comes to for funding or assistance or help, and we have just about the lowest level of funding in the entire parish. So before we think about dedicating specific funds of what little money we do have to spend, we think long and hard, and that's why this discussion is here. Mr. Savoy asked us to have it. It came up kind of sudden to have at the last Finance Committee meeting, and that's why we didn't have it, but we're having it here. So, Mr. Hillensback.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the parish president, it was his recommendation in the state of the parish when he addressed the people was 1/8 cent, or 1/8 of 1 cent, and we don't have to go with that. We can look at 1/16 of 1 cent. Maybe we could go half of that. If 1/8 of 1 cent would raise 24 million, well, according to my Florida State math, 1/16 penny would raise 12 million. And with matching funds, we could move forward. It's very important that we need to get the sewage out of the open ditches, and we need to start progressing at some point in time. And just for clarification, and Bill Root did touch on it lightly, this is not for parish-wide sewage and wastewater treatment. This is for comprehensive, which is, as I understand it, would take care primarily of the area north of Gonzales, like the Duplessis area, the Dutchtown area, the Prairieville area, and maybe some of Galvez, according to the maps I've seen. So to say, well, we just can't afford it, what's going to be cut, that's one thing, but I think we need to look at the alternative, and the alternative is we're going to continue to have sewage in our ditches. And so we need to squeeze and scratch and pull every available dollar together to move forward with the plan of some time. It's time. It's 2006. Can't continue to study it. We need to do something. And so we don't have to go with the 8 cent. If we can't afford that, if that's too much of a dedication, we can go with something less than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hillensback. And I have to say, on behalf of the parish president, he may or may not have meant 1/8 cent or 1/4 cent, or I think essentially his proposal in his State of the Parish address was it is time to dedicate or have some sort of a funding mechanism, because we've been talking about wastewater in this parish for many, many years. Certainly, it was a point of discussion before I got elected. Mr. Savoy is the dean of this particular council, and I'll bet they've been talking about it since way back when he was a rookie, too. And here we are in 2006, and we are no closer to a solution. And I think the main crux of the parish president's proposal was that it's time to find some way, some mechanism of funding water and wastewater in this parish, and let's get going with it. And as he said to me earlier today when we were having a meeting, he said, if you don't like this plan, then give me another plan. I'm throwing a plan out there. Hack it up, do something with it, or give me a plan. Give me your ideas. And that's what this discussion is all about as well. So let's hear from Ms. Fontenot.
Well, the people of Ascension Parish and really around the nation look to government officials to entrust their money to get something accomplished. I agree with Councilman Savoy. I don't think that we need to put ourselves in a bind by going and asking the people to dedicate a fund. There's 11 of us up here that can dedicate that fund, and we can figure out what we need to do. We know we need sewer, and we're all for that. We also need recreation. In Councilman Hillensback's district and my district, we've got the major growth, and we really don't have any facilities for these children to get out and get in the sun and get away from the television and get away from the street corners or whatever. This particular summer, my son was telling me, and he was very distressed about it. He said he coaches in the Gonzales League, baseball. And he said, Mama, he said, it was really so sad. He said, because they couldn't take any more kids, and they had to turn away kids. And he said all the coaches got together and added a couple of kids to their roster in order to take care of them, and they still couldn't do it. And they didn't have time to form any more teams. And the parish couldn't handle them. So we have children in Ascension Parish that technically, had to go away unattended because they couldn't play anywhere in this parish. So we know that we don't have enough funds in that particular fund right now, and we know that even at this time that needs to be increased. So there's so much here that we have to really digest it, and we really need to come up with a good plan. We don't need the people to get involved in this. We need to discipline ourselves to find out what's important, what's not important, and how we can take the money that we have and the money that we're getting extra. Because just like Councilman Savoy said, lean days are coming. We all know that. That's life. And we have to prepare for those days too. So I just hope that, that we can go along better. And one of the things I would ask you, Councilman McConnell, since you've been tasked with this, is to get with people like Recreation and try to get them to give you a long-range view of what may be needed so that we have an idea of what we need to spend long-term before we even start trying to figure out what else we can do.
Thank you, Ms. Fontenot, and you're absolutely right. I think what really needs to be done is some sort of a subcommittee of this council partnered with the administration to look at some of the special funding needs and work all of that stuff out. I'm certainly not prepared tonight to name any sort of a subcommittee. I will tell you, Chairman Savoy and I have a very good working relationship when we talk together. Sometimes it's over the in fact, often it's over the telephone. We don't get to meet face to face nearly as often as we would like to because of conflicting work schedules. But we do have a very good working relationship, and we do have good open and I think productive discussions. And so what I'm going to commit to my colleagues here on the council is that Council Chairman Savoy and I will continue to pursue this and work with the administration, because there are a number of funding mechanisms and funding programs that we really need to work out for the long-term future of this parish. And just have a plan that we can put before you. As we heard earlier, if we want to get anything on the September ballot, we almost have to be voting on it tonight, and we're not even remotely prepared to vote on something like that tonight to be to be able to present it to the people with enough information that they will understand it. So therefore, I guess the conclusion of this discussion is that you have my commitment as the finance chairman and as vice chairman of the council, and Council Chairman Savoy's commitment, I believe, as well, that we will work together as closely as possible and come up with some ideas or some proposals for you, and then we'll take them here and we'll hash them out and we'll beat them up and we'll run them up the flagpole and see if anybody salutes them. So thank you very much. This was a very good discussion once again, and I appreciate Mr. Todd.
One quick comment on Mrs. Fontenot's comments. The kids that got left out in the city of Gonzales, the parish did hang over 2 weeks past their registration to find places for these kids. So they did take in a bunch of kids. I want to commend the Recreation Department on that.
Thanks, Todd. Now let's light up those parks so they can.
Yes, indeed.
So we can see.
That did get taking place yesterday also.
Thank you. All right, item number 17. Unless you were living under a rock somewhere, this is a continuation of a discussion that we had at the last parish council meeting, and it concerns the hiring of additional staff. And we've had a number of discussions and debates about this. When I told you all at the meeting last week that Council Chairman Savoy and I had a very like-minded discussion, let me tell you what we talked about. Because I had kind of hoped that that my comments would pretty much end that debate right then. Evidently, I was wrong. But what we looked at, and this was also, by the way, having discussions with the parish secretary, Ms. Suzanne Patterson, and she has a staff of one, is utilizing our parish secretary more than we have been. What Chairman Savoy and I talked about was using the parish secretary as the recording secretary for all committee meetings, all meetings of this council. And if time or workload or what have you was a problem or was a bottleneck or was a sticking point, then perhaps we could discuss additional staffing in the parish secretary's office. But we didn't really feel like there was a need. Jeremy, am I talking right? I'm going to call on you next. We didn't really feel like there was a need to hire additional secretarial staff for this council when we had the staff that was already there. And I'm going to tell you, one of the complaints or one of the problems that I have had is we have one person who is doing all of the recording and the scheduling for the Strategic Planning Committee, which is, I mean, it's a monster committee. It's almost the catch-all committee. Everything that we don't know where it goes to strategic planning. We've got utilities, we've got roads and infrastructure and the bridge committee. We have all of that kind of stuff. And we're scheduling all of these meetings. And forgive me, I'm getting old. I'm getting addle-brained, and I've got a zillion emails that come in all the time. And ask Suzanne, she'll tell you sometimes I'll call her and say, Suzanne, do I have a meeting tonight? Because sometimes I just don't know. I can't keep track of it. And she doesn't know either. She doesn't know because either Miss June DeLone knows or Miss Angie Charleville knows or whoever is recording for this committee or that committee. And I would really like to see all of our committees, all committees of this council, all of the minutes, all of the scheduling, everything go through the parish secretary's office. And if we need to bulk up that staff by certainly no more than one person, I would think, then let's consider doing that. Because remember too, now we have the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is made up of volunteers of this parish. We have the Board of Adjustments. We have a number of boards and commissions that meet regularly, that do the work of this parish, that do the work of this people, and they're volunteers, and they are volunteering their time. And we certainly need to provide staff for them as well. And for those boards and commission, I think it is perfectly adequate and okay for those staff members, those secretaries in those particular departments who are already working for them. I think that's great for them to come forth and take the minutes and do the scheduling and so forth like that. But for everything that goes through this council, I firmly believe that we should go through the parish secretary's office, and that is Ms. Suzanne Patterson and her staff. And that's my feeling on this, and I don't think we need to hire any additional people whatsoever. And we can continue to operate as we have. The committee system is very, very important. Some of our council meetings last interminably long as it is. Can you imagine what they would be like if we didn't have committees to hash out some of this stuff beforehand? So my feeling is this: retain the status quo, and we go through the parish secretary, Mr. Jerry Savoy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. McConnell. And I'm going to echo a lot of what you just said, try to shorten it up, but I want to back up a little bit and clarify a couple of things. You know, after the parish president said that we needed to get our own council secretary, I went back and I looked at the charter. And if you look at the charter calls for, it's not clear as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't clear to me at the time. So, because parts of the charter states parish secretary, but also it also states that the the secretary of the governing authority a couple of times, okay, which Ms. Suzanne has been fulfilling those already. So I'm starting to scratch my head. Then I go back to January 4th minutes of the meeting, and that position's called 4 times, but it's 2 different versions. One is parish secretary, one is parish council secretary. So I really scratched my head. So I called Ricky Babin and give him the information. I said, Ricky, give me a ruling on this. Ricky did, and basically Ricky's ruling is Miss Suzanne Patterson is the council secretary. Okay? With saying that, what we need to do is, I do not think that we're utilizing those two positions that exist today. I'm going to ask everyone, if you need some help, if you need some research, if you need a report or anything like that, put in a request to them, and let's see how that works. Let's start utilizing them fully. Now, if they overload it, then we will come back and we'll add someone. Or if we may need an area of expertise somewhere, so we may need to go after a particular individual with skills, something to that nature right there. So with that, that's it. I mean, everyone thought, and they're getting paid out of the legislative budget. So it's always been, they've always been there for us. We just need to start utilizing them. If they get overworked, then we'll look at bringing the third person on. That's all I got, Mr. Chair.
And I'm going to add, thank you very much, Mr. Savoy. I'm going to add that whenever I have need anything, unless it was specific information that I needed from an individual in Public Works or whichever department, unless it was specific expertise, whenever I've needed anything, I have always called on Ms. Suzanne Patterson, and I have always received my request in a timely manner. I've gotten everything I needed from her in a timely manner. She has never been able to. She has never been unable to deliver what I wanted, unless she called me and said, "I can't get this to you, or it's going to take this certain period of time, or whatever." Jerry's correct. We are underutilizing our parish secretary's department. The molehill rapidly grew into a mountain without necessity, and that's kind of where I am on it, Mr. Hillensbeck.
Yeah, that's great, because I was going to tell you, if you wanted to hire anybody, you can have my secretary, because I can do my own. And I'd like, in saying that, I'd just like to thank, especially the finance department and all the administrators, anyone I've ever asked anything for, they've provided it, like you said, in a very timely manner. It's good information.
Mr. Todd Lambert?
Yeah, seems like a lot of the problems is coming with our subcommittees that we all have. And I think with the technology we have here at this particular room, I think Mr. Ozzie can get our audio where maybe we can use that for our minutes, where we won't have to have a secretary here taking the minutes. And I think Randy may be able to set us up with that. So there's something to think about, instead of having to have a secretary here taking minutes on our subcommittee meetings. Because they're here filming the meetings already, so they have audio, so they have a tape with the meeting minutes on it available for anybody that wants one.
You make a good point, Mr. Lambert. Although I just want to tell you that when I am not a member of a committee, I mean, often I would love to come to some of these committees, and I just really don't have the time. I really don't, and I really like getting from my secretary just a bullet list of those items that were discussed. And sometimes some of our meetings will last 2 and 3 hours long, and that those very long debates will really just boil down to a couple or three bullet points, the decisions that were actually made. So I don't know that I want to listen to 3 hours worth of tapes to understand the 1 or 2 points that were really brought out of the decisions that were made at the committee. And that's why I still would like to see, I don't want to see a transcript of the meeting, I would just like to see the results of those committee meetings as well. Mr. Shakespeare, I think you had your hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and it was a suggestion coming out of strategic planning to discuss this, and of course, the thing that triggered this was, the statement about not having staffing. But I wanted to put forward, and I discussed with Chairman Savoy, that it has evolved into the point, you mentioned it earlier, strategic planning, whether I'm doing it or anyone else is doing it. I don't think anyone yet fully appreciates what comes across the strategic planning desk. And I'm just going to give you a few instances, and you say, Ms. Suzanne has been wonderful, and she and I have been on the phone a lot, but I have not tasked her with the research and things that are necessary to move this thing forward. And I'm going to tell you some of the things. The traffic impact, just that thing has been a tremendous amount of meetings, a tremendous amount of background information where you get booklet after booklet after booklet, and somebody has to go through and do this research and organize it and do things. You know, we're taking that as a task. Right now we're reviewing it. We're trying to come back with some things. This is one item. But also the subdivision regulations, which has been tasked and has been ongoing for 6 to 8 months, where we've been verbalizing through planning and zoning and working back and forth. And a lot of people don't know this. There's meetings about every other week that go through the details of it. When we come to the strategic planning meeting, all those meetings have been hashed. All the research has been done. The drainage ordinance is ongoing. The adjudicated property is going through and being done. The junk car proposals that we've had. We've just finished the abandoned housing program that we've had set up, and we've got a guy working full time. But that was a tremendous amount of research and everything. The Waterway Commission is up and coming now, and it's going to cut down on things. These are all necessary things. The Parish Riverfront development is an ongoing thing that we've been doing. The economic development package that we have was about a year-long process that we went through, and a tremendous amount of paperwork and everything. The PUD, SPUD, T&D ordinance. Right now we're working on a charter review with the PAR group that is taking a stack of papers and go and review line after line. We've decided to, as a strategic planning, to have reports coming in, because we knew as a parish growing and things changing, we have to come together better, to work better together. And so we've taken planning and zoning and put them at the meetings, and we get a report from them. And you go through and you do, and we're trying to now take their suggestions and moving and trying to utilize that and put these suggestions in the form of specification or ordinances that we can make things better for the parish. Same thing with the variance board. We've gotten them on. We spent a year with the TV, and now we have something coming up. You know, you think the TV committee thing has died. We've got documents now that we're going forward to try to get regulations, because ASEAN Technology Department, there are certain regulations that we really need to have in place to follow. We also have a periodic master plan that we should have on board right now that we don't have updated. We need parish-wide zoning review every 5 years, of which the last one was 3 years ago. And it takes about 2 years to do. It's a tremendous amount of research. And I agree with you 100%. We need to go through one area. We need to go through Ms. Suzanne's department. But what's going to happen is these things are kind of all spread out. And because we don't have adequate staff, to cover all this in a timely manner for the people of the parish. I'll make that statement. And from the standpoint of to cut something down that has taken us 6 months, we could possibly be doing it in 3 months. And so I think what you're going to see, what I predict to see, we'll get started on it, is in a short period of time, we're going to have to supplement, the secretarial area with some people that are working from these areas just about full time, because it comes from all areas of the council. And I think you're going to see that in a short order, that we're going to be utilizing somebody just about full time on this, and that was why I had suggested that we need staffing for, and I didn't want to come up here and say, well, I need staffing for the things that I do, but no one else does, and that's not true, because everybody does a tremendous amount of work, but all of these large items come in at one time there, and so. I think what you're going to see in a short order is that we'll have to hire somebody to take care of these things. And I would like to see it, because it's going to cut down the time it takes us to implement them.
Thank you, Mr. But that's really my point exactly, Mr. Scheck-Snyder. We have staff, and when you're talking about research, we're not talking about hiring research assistants. We're not talking. We have, I think, extremely capable staff. The professionals that we have in Public Works Department, the professionals that we have in the Human Resources Department, the professionals that we have in Planning and Zoning Department. Let me tell you, we are very fortunate to have the caliber of employees that we have. Outstanding people. But what I'm saying is, Ms. Suzanne, all of that, I hate to put you on the spot, all of those things that Mr. Scheck-Snyder mentioned, did you know all of that stuff? Did you know all of that was going on? I want my secretary. I think it's important that she knows and that she can coordinate all of that. I certainly don't expect the Secretary's office to do the research or anything that you were talking about, but the coordination of it, that's what she needs to do. That's the job of the parish secretary, is the coordination of information and to make sure that the information is disseminated where it needs to go. Ms. June DeLone takes all the minutes for
we also, I think it's
strategic
important to
planning.
note, we also have a number of meetings that are during the daytime with necessary people that you have to meet with, and we need to have, the legislative body needs to have a representative there at those meetings, and that may be a staff person that we can dialogue with on these items because they're so important. And that's been a big thing. It'll cut down on the amount of time. And I think in the long run, we're going to save a lot of money.
Oh, and very likely. But I can tell you this, that I have had discussions with the parish secretary, and her feeling is that the way things are right now, that she can handle the problem. And I'd like to give it a shot and let her try. And then, as we discussed, if it becomes too much of a burden, then we will look at beefing up that department and having additional personnel go into there. But it is our belief, Council Chairman Savoy and mine, and Secretary Suzanne Patterson, it is our belief that we have adequate staff right now to do those things that we need to do. We just need to utilize them adequately. Ms. Fontenot, you had a comment.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Ms. Suzanne and to Ms. Gale, because they have been there and supportive and gracious anytime we've ever needed them, and I think they do an awesome job. And one of the things that we could do initially, I would think that if they do have a work overload right now, that maybe even some sort of COE girl or a temporary to help them file and to help them make copies, do things that would free them up to do something, maybe something we could look at initially too, and then go down the road if somebody, full-time needs to be. But one of my concerns tonight is, I want to make sure tonight when I leave here about my Transportation Committee meeting on the second Tuesday of the month. I want to make sure that I will have, staff attend and to deal with the issues that come. I need somebody that I know is going to put the agenda together, which Ms. Liz Bro is doing currently, and I can't say enough about Liz. She does an awesome job, and she's very fun to work with, and seems to be very pleased with the work, but, she works for the parish president, so I'm not sure whether she's going to be allowed to come back. And I want to know, if she's not going to come back, if the 19th is the deadline and she will not be back for the May meeting, who will be?
Let me just say the 19th is not a deadline. Let me just say that. The 19th is not a deadline.
Seemed like it was to me, Mr. McConnell, in the newspaper.
You believe everything? Wait a minute. You said you don't read the newspapers. Didn't you say that?
I forgot to tell you. No, I did say that someone sent it to me by email.
I see. Well,
real quick, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I want to address Mr. Shakespeare's concern. He does have a committee that is loaded with issues, and we want to make sure that we are being serviced the best that we can and given the tools and the assistance that we need. Can't try to utilize Ms. Suzanne. I mean, she may go to the parish president and say, look, Mr. Shakespeare needs this done. Do you want to assign a particular employee associated with that issue? And they may run with it. That's like Martin said, she will coordinate that. And if she gets overloaded, it's going to be up to her to let us know that, and we'll have to look at it at that particular time. But I think we're going in the right direction here, and but I want to lighten your load because I know you've got a very heavy load, But so let's try it that way.
Okay. Good. Let's move into item number 18 then, which is the proposed agenda for the regular council meeting on April the 20th. That agenda there is in front of you. Bear in mind, we put in a bunch of things on there that we discussed tonight. Is there anything that anybody sees on there that should not be there? Is there anything that somebody doesn't see there that you want to put? Mr. Todd Lambert?
Number 16, I thought we were waiting on more information, introduction of an ordinance establishing and development impact fees. Mr. Shexnite, I thought we are waiting on more input from Charles Landry and his group on Jim Duncan and the crew on giving us more. You know, we had some revisions that we would like to see, or whether or not they can be implemented. And I don't think we're ready to move on the introduction of ordinance yet on the impact fees. That's just my opinion.
No, we are not. Excuse me.
No, go ahead. But he directed the question to you, Mr. Shakespeare, and he has the floor.
No, we are not. We have. I'm still waiting back from recommendations from economic development that was sent to Charles Landry on purely and economic development issues, and he is disseminating that information and was going to come back to us with an alternate proposal for commercial and retail, which was a concern by people. There's been some suggestions on how to address the issue of family petitions already, and so they're putting that together. But now, at the last transportation meeting, administration has come out with a new proposal which completely changes how we were doing things with, the direction we were headed with the traffic impact fee as far as projects and how we were doing things with the different districts and so on. And so we haven't had a chance to correspond with Mr. Landry and Mr. Duncan yet to find out what the implications of that is and how we should move forward.
So we have two options right now.
Right.
You can either strike this from the agenda, or you can leave it on. It'll be introduced as an ordinance, and then you've got a couple of weeks to make your adjustments to it.
My recommendation is we pass on it for right now.
And that's a motion.
I'll second that.
There's a
Motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Ms. Cheryl Fontenot to strike item 16 from the agenda and to refer it to strategic planning for finalization.
Yes.
Discussion, Mr. Savon?
Yeah. All right. Let's take a step back and see what we're doing. We got Ricky Babin, and I have to only imagine that through Ricky Babin, by Parish President, put this on the agenda. Okay? Now, think about it being your issue. Think about us coming around here and pulling it off the agenda. As the Parish Council Chairman, I'd like for you to think about leaving it on the agenda, because no one's here to discuss this particular agenda item. I know that there's some revisions being made. I know that we have not had the opportunity to see the revisions, okay? And we probably won't have time to get them and review them and make a decision by next Thursday. But there's a couple of options that we can do at the council meeting next Thursday. If we are not satisfied with getting the document in time to study it, then we can pass on this item next Thursday, or we may be comfortable to call the public hearing, and then if we're not ready, we can extend the public hearing. That's the couple of options that we can do. Striking it from the agenda at this point, I'm not comfortable with, but that's my belief. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Fontenot?
I've asked today to get a revised copy, and Mr. Zahn tells me there is none, and she went and asked about it. So why put something on an agenda? I'd have to ask administration why they put it on the agenda to begin with if there's nothing for us to review. Listen, guys, we work hard, too, on this council, and I've had several different revisions of the impact fee in the past 10 months or so, and I read all that and take it to heart to try to study it to make the best decision for my people. And, here I am, it's on the agenda, and I'm asking for it, and it's not even available because it's not ready yet. So I can't see why we would move forward with something that isn't even finished. I'll stick with my second to pull it.
Mr. Thompson? Different issue. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion? Because Mr. Scheck-Snyder?
Well, and my only concern was I think we have a lot of issues that are not going to be there, and I don't want to get into a council meeting where we're having discussions trying to decide some particular issues, and that's going to drag on into an hour-long conversation. I don't think that's where these things should take place. These discussions should come in a committee meeting, and it's pretty obvious that there's a number of wide-open issues that are here, and we could start on one and last 15 to 20 minutes, and there's probably 10 of them to be addressed. So that's my only concern. If Chairman Savoy wants to move forward with it, that would be fine. But there's a lot of issues here that I don't want to get caught up in a 2-hour-long debate at the council meeting.
All right, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, I agree with Chairman Savoy, and I'd like to offer a substitute motion that we just leave it on the agenda.
I don't think you need to offer a substitute motion. You just vote it down. Is there any further discussion? All right, the motion is on the floor that we strike item 16 from the agenda and send it back for finalization to the Strategic Planning Committee. Is there any opposition to the motion? 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and oppose it as well. 4. Doesn't make a hill of beans. The motion passes, and we strike it from the agenda. Sonically would notify the administration.
Do you need a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair?
I don't think we do, because I think Mr. Thompson has some additional.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Hillinsbeck also has some additional.
Yes.
That's Mr. Byriger's motion to make, Mr. Sapp.
I'm sorry.
I would like to add Worthy Road on there under transportation. I'm trying to figure out where we are on right-of-way.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Acquisition. And I also want to add on there to, I want to try to make a motion to send a letter to the city of Gonzales to go in a corporate endeavor to try to do Worthy Road at the same time. They are starting to acquire right-of-way to widen Worthy Road also.
Ms. Fontenot, would you agree to just allow that to be put under your committee, not as a recommendation, but as an item of discussion?
Did you want to do it there, or did you want to bring it to transportation?
Well, we need to.
I mean, if we're not going to move on anything,
I think we're going to move on.
What's the consensus of the transportation committee? Buddy, have any objection to that?
Why don't we just make it a separate item, and just under general business is on. If you put 2 items from Mr. Thompson, first of all is an update on Worthy Road, specifically the right-of-way acquisition, and then the second item would be a resolution requesting cooperative endeavor agreement with the city of Gonzales so that Worthy Road be done at the same time. Put both of those under Mr. Thompson's name.
Thank
you. Mr. Hillinsbeck, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, not necessarily add. Item number 18, the introduction of the drainage ordinance. Of course, that's on recommendation from Planning and Zoning meeting of 4/12/06. Ken, I think we need to bring that back to strategic planning and look at it one last time, see what their recommendations are, and then let that come as a recommendation from our committee once we've reviewed what they've done.
We could probably address Michael. Is it ready?
The ordinance is ready to go to the council.
Well, but I'd like to see what their recommendations are, where it could come back through strategic planning to the council.
Yeah, it has not come back through strategic
No,
planning.
I know. That's
I
what
got
I'm
a
saying. I'm
feeling
asking it
what
to be
would happen.
pulled, and that would be my motion that we pull it.
Well,
and take a look at it in strategic planning, and then bring it to the council.
If I can say this on behalf of Planning and Zoning, they have the right and the authority to send items to the council. And even
we sent it to them for review. So we should get those comments back in committee before it makes the agenda.
Is that a motion, Mr.?
That's a motion.
Motion by Mr. Hillinsbeck to pull item number 18 from the agenda and send it back to strategic planning for discussion. Is there a second to Mr. Hillinsbeck's motion?
I'll second it.
Yeah, I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Fontenot. to pull item number 18. Does anybody have any further discussion? Mr. Savoy.
Strategic planning. Who's the members on the strategic planning? Okay. And
Okay.
how does chairman? Who's the chairman? What coming out of your committee? You feel like it was passed through planning and zoning and it's ready to come back, but it's ready to come back to the council.
It went through planning and zoning, which is a rightful thing
we don't
for
know
it to
what
do.
they changed.
But what happens is it's going to come back to a council meeting, and it's a lot of information, and it needs to be a lot of discussion just to figure out what exactly is it that they passed. And what ends up happening is we take it at the council meeting and we say, look at all this information we had assigned, and they send it back to committee. So I think Mr. Hillenbeck is right from the standpoint, let's go ahead with the committee now, let's take a look at it, and then send it to the council, and we'll have a time to digest it.
Okay. Again, there's 3 weeks before we take action, final action on this proposition. It goes to Thursday's meeting. You got a week from now, today, you got a week before the next meeting, you introduce it at the next meeting, then there's 2 weeks before you act on it, or postpone it, or cancel it.
And that's fine.
I mean, versus pulling it off.
Okay.
You know.
I'd also like to add, I've got a copy of the St. Tammany ordinance, which I'm reviewing. I was provided that by Jill from the Lake Pontchartrain Levee Foundation, and I'd like to kind of have a chance to compare what St. Tammany has in place that she provided me, compare it with what changes and what the final document's going to look like after planning and zoning has made their recommendations.
All right, I think.
I mean, rather than try to make a bunch of changes after it gets back to the full council, I think committees need to get where it needs to be worked out.
All right, let's go ahead and vote on this. We have a motion and a second to delete item number 18 from the agenda and refer it back to strategic planning for clarification. Is there any opposition to the motion? Then the item is pulled, and we will.
One last thing, Mr. Chairman.
We'll refer. You have another.
Yeah, just last thing. I just want to thank a couple of people before we adjourn. Mr. Rue and the DPW staff, Mr. Bourgeois. You know, I'd reported out about the trash problem on Highway 42 at the Drainage Board meeting, and last Friday, Mr. Rue, Benny Bourgeois, got the staff out there, DPW employees, and it was much better. And I also want to thank Mr. Terrence Irvin because he coordinated with Hunt Correction, and the prisoners were out there today. So 42 is probably the cleanest it's been in a few a few years. And the other thanks I'd like to say to Mr. Osborne and the GIS staff. I've had several comments from constituents about how much better the audio and the video is of our meetings. I just want to thank him for the work that the staff's doing because it's very, very much improved over what we've had in the past.
Thank you, Mills. Pat on the back, always welcome. Please wait. Please don't put your items away yet.
What?
Just a moment, please.
Have one more.
We have Ms. Fontenot.
I just want to ask Mr. Marchand if y'all are finished with the drainage ordinance, if you can get everybody a copy. I would like to start reviewing it if Mr.
Suzanne has it. She will provide it to us.
Charles Becknell delivered it.
Yeah, I would like to, have it in advance so that we can go along with
You
that.
have another addition to the agenda?
I do want to ask that the Sunshine Bridge, as Councilman Thomas, asked, be put on my agenda. But since I don't know who is going to do my agenda, I will task you to see to it that that gets put on the transportation agenda. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, you had a request.
I'm not sure what, I have a concern about a contract with the council that I want to know. I have some concerns that I need to discuss before I put it on the agenda for the full council.
You're talking about a service contract with a provider, with a contractor.
Right. With the parish. Well, I mean, with the council.
What sort of contract? Yeah, I mean, we could refer it to. I mean, here we are.
Get together after the meeting, get the particulars on it.
You want to visit after the meeting, Coach, and I can figure out. I mean, what? Is this an agenda item for a full council meeting, or is it something that we need to send to a committee? Is it a DPW contract? Is it a personnel contract?
It's a contract with the parish, with the council. And it's been a contract that we've been discussing for a little while. I've talked to Chairman Sawa about it a couple of days ago, and I think we need to resurface it and look at this contract for it.
And who is the contract with?
This contract is the Ascension Parish Council and Quizan Associate.
Ms. Savoy, you've discussed that with...
Yeah, Mr. Thomas called me a day or two ago and mentioned he'd like to discuss it. Bring it up.
Ordinarily, Coach, we discuss contracts here in the Finance Committee. I wish we had known about it. We could have put it on this agenda tonight to go ahead and discuss. What is the wish of the Finance Committee? Do you want to put it on I have no information. I have nothing that we can intelligently discuss. If you would like to consider it at the full council meeting next week, that is certainly your option to do. It's our policy to discuss things at the committee beforehand, but it is not required. Any council member can put anything on a council agenda, and you can talk about anything you want to. What is the wishes? Is that a motion, Mr. Thomas, to put it on, to add it to the agenda?
I would like to bring it to the Finance Committee before we bring it to the full council.
All right, that's another month away. All right, the May Finance Committee, and then for discussion. Suzanne, would you make a note of that, please, that we need to go ahead and put the Roy Kazare contract on the May Finance Committee agenda, and that'll give people enough time to look at it. Okay, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to direct this question to DPW Bill Rue. It's under transportation, item D, the roadway construction project. On this, I know we have 2 roads in legal. What are we going to approve here, Bill?
What was that under? I don't have the agenda.
This is item 11D. It says the Certificate of Substantial Completion Phase 2 Roadway Construction Project number 2004 road project,
Right.
Bill.
That's barrier construction.
2004 to Phase 2, I think, is the some of the turn lanes and all, if I'm not mistaken.
The turn lanes are B, or is that?
Do you have more?
2004 intersection improvements are item B.
B?
I'm looking at D.
This is roadway construction project.
I think this is the Easley-Melanson, if I'm not sure, mistaken.
Okay.
Right, RJ, there you go.
All right, let's make sure we...
She doesn't have her minutes.
Please make sure, Bill, that Suzanne... Just make sure that Suzanne has that so she can include it in the packets so we can go ahead and get it.
No, that is the turn, let me see, which one you have here.
Okay. Just make sure we know what we're talking about.
Phase 2A, according to this, is the turn lanes, the 935 at 431 to Plessis Road and Swamp Road, substantial completion. That's
Okay.
what A is.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Ken Shakespeare had your hand up.
Well, we had one more quick revision on the strategic planning, the subdivision construction specifications. We were attempting to introduce an ordinance to change over from DODT standards to Ascension Parish subdivision standards. So, but I hadn't seen it yet. I don't know whether it's ready from legal. And so, if it comes in the form of an ordinance, we're ready to move on it. If not, we're just going to have a discussion because we'd like to introduce it the ordinance at that time.
Is it a recommendation of strategic planning?
It's a recommendation of strategic planning to do that, but it's just listed here as subdivision construction specifications. The fact of the matter is, it's an ordinance. We're doing the ordinance in order to change over from DODT specs to Ascension Parish specifications.
I knew that. I didn't realize it had already come as a recommendation. Mr. Byriger?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
No, I have something to ask. Mr. Chairman, Right before President Hughes left today, he said, check the email that I just sent you, and he says, I would like to have an executive session added to the April 20th meeting, and it's supposed to be to discuss road problems. Now, I have not checked with legal if we can do that in an executive session.
I'm not a lawyer, and I don't play one on TV, but I think we've got to get pretty specific on to the reason for the executive session if we're going to exclude the public from the meeting. It has to be a specific purpose, a specific discussion.
Mr. Chairman, we really need to discuss, we have some road problems. However you want to word it, we need to get it on the agenda. I don't know.
Ms. Fontenot, you're chairman of transportation.
Well, I was just fixing to ask that. I mean, that's the committee that it needs to be brought in. We do have some problems with the 2004 road projects, and we were advised by our attorney that we could not go into executive session because there hasn't been any legal action taken at this point. So I don't know what this is about, and if it's dealing with that, the attorney says no.
I have to tell you, in my experience, the only things that can be discussed in executive session are attorney-client privilege items when litigation is involved, or we can discuss personnel issues in executive session. Otherwise, I think we're pretty limited. If we want to discuss a specific thing, I don't think we can put it. Tell Mr. Hughes he'll have to have some 2-on-2s in the White House to discuss some of this stuff. Mr. Byriger? No. You had your hand up, Mr. Byriger?
No.
You didn't? Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We're adjourned.
I disagree with you.